I've been loving seeing you so far, and we got to see a preview as journalists of the first few episodes of Monarch, and I've been loving Clive. There's such an
Thank you.
intrigue to him, and he has quite an interesting backstory, I'm sure. Was there something about this particular character, though, or maybe the series itself that made you want to be a part of Monarch?
Well, first and foremost, Susan Sarandon. That was the first thing that I heard and loved. I met Susan many years ago, actually, on a job that my then girlfriend was doing in Australia. And I liked her very much then. And then to suddenly be on a set with her in Georgia was just an amazing moment for me. And she remembered us meeting back in Australia, so that was great. And
Oh,
she's
cool.
just a fabulous person. But it's not just Susan; the cast is peppered with people that I am very fortunate to have worked with. Anna Friel, she just did Marcella in England, which I thought was a
Love her.
magnificent piece of work. So it was great to be working with her. And then people like Beth Ditto, who's sort of newish to the acting scene, but just took to it like a fish to water. And of course, Trace Adkins, who I didn't know having come from England, but obviously over here he's a really big deal. And it was really cool to sort of key into the 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 whole Texas feel and the cowboy way and country through him being a bona fide part of it. And this was sort of a world that I had had no experience with, and I thought it was going to be absolutely fascinating, sort of being a part of it.
How was Clive then originally described to you?
Well, how he was described was basically a sort of a ne'er do well husband of Anna Friel, the sort of the lead sibling in the show, the
Nikki.
Nikki, exactly. Um, and the backstory that we sort of came up with, Melissa and then it was Michael Rausch, the showrunner. We talked it through. Was that basically Clive was an up and coming actor, British actor across in the United States, and he was doing pretty well at the beginning. And that's when the romance started between Clive and Nikki. And very soon, Nikki's star started to accelerate and outshine Clive. And that was sort of a kind of a brutal bash to his ego. And he started sort of to fall very much into her shadow. And he didn't like that much. And the issue that I sort of have with that type of a storyline is that very easily a character like that can become rather two dimensional, and he's the bad boy, and he's this and he's that, and it's all sort of shades of negativity about him. But I think what we find as we grow older is that things are rarely black and white, and there's lots of shades of grey everywhere. And so I mentioned this to both Melissa and Michael, and I said, listen, he may be a cheat and he may be a liar, and that's great. That's great for the drama. And I always play sort of characters that are sort of on the fringe or are quite eccentric or are sort of, you know, kind of bad guys. But what I wanted to do with Clive was to make him, if he was going to be a bad guy to his wife, I wanted to make him very, very much a very good father and very much interested in sort of the world of a family that he perhaps was the outsider in, but desperately wanted to be a part of. So I wanted to give him sort of very human elements that were relatable to the audience, as well as being sort of a naughty cheat and a liar to round him out, you know.
I loved the bathtub scene between Clive and Nikki. That was
Well,
very on edge for me watching that will she, won't she kind of relationship. Talk about filming that moment.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was a great evening because, well, for many reasons. Obviously, the drama of the scene, notwithstanding, it's sort of like I just knew I was just like, okay, this is the moment that I have to sort of get down to my underwear and then sort of be in a bath all evening with all these sort of grips standing around like screwing in light bulbs, you know. And how do you? And here I am, like covered in beautiful sort of foam bath and surrounded by wonderful sorts of bath oils and scents and everything. And I'm trying to sort of like be a bro, like with all with all the grips around me. It's not
Lighting
easy
good,
to do
dude.
to be sitting in
Everything's
a
good,
bar.
dude.
Yeah, yeah, hey bro, yeah, how about those Mets, huh? And they were just like, so that was hilarious. And then of course, like when Anna came in, she got ready, and she's in every scene, just so many scenes, and she got out of one costume and a whole another costume and the hair, and she arrived, and she looked beautiful as she always does. But then it was about sort of pulling the scene together and getting to a point where she became super threatening whilst being very, very charming, and me just being completely vulnerable, and sort of justly so. I mean, he'd really sort of stepped out of line, and not for the first time, with another woman, and she found out about it. So yes, there was a lot of choreography to do with the curling iron that she had. The extension cord was extra long. I had a person on social media point out, "You never get extension cords that long on a curling iron, bro." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, okay, suspend your disbelief, mate. It's going to be all right." But I did check and double check that the bloody thing wasn't plugged in for real. They actually made a fake plug socket on the thing. I was just like, no, 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 no. We're double checking everything on this for this moment. But yeah, it turned out to be quite a fun
I
scene.
know I watched it be okay, but I still need it like for the 10th time. You just reassure me that I am not getting actually electrocuted in this moment, please.
Exactly. It's very much the case that over time, in this business, you realize that we're doing a lot of very different things, and we're having to do it quite quickly, and there's a lot of people who are working very hard and are quite tired, and so mistakes do get made in film and TV all the time, like in terms of safety, and so yeah, you always have to check everything twice.
Well, back on dry land, I should say, we love that you have such a beautiful voice. Will we be getting to see you perform at all during Monarch this season?
That is very kind of you to say. I love to sing. I don't have a solo, but I will take part in a group rendition of a song that people do know, and I hope you like it. I don't want to spoil it by saying what it is, but yes, I will take part in one of the group songs.
Goodness, there's so much more Monarch to come. We're just starting out here. And you are a part of social media outside of the very critical extension cord area that you've been getting feedback on. What other responses have you been receiving from people who have been watching Monarch so far?
Well, it's that interesting thing of, do you read the reviews? Do you, and of course we are slightly glued to the reviews and seeing what people are saying. Um, yeah, I think they're waiting to see about Clive. I think they think that they've got his number, and they think that that's all he is. And I hope that over time they get to see like little bits and pieces of him that are surprising to them. The kids are super important in his life, and while we were on set, sort of doing all the scenes that we did, group and sort of other scenes, I actually got on extremely well, thankfully, with the two actors playing my kids. And one is Inigo Pascual, who's a Filipino star. Apparently, he's their sort of answer to Justin Bieber, very well-known singer out there, very, very good at what he does. And the wonderful thing about him is that he's, with all of that acclaim, he's very, very humble with it, and a very nice guy to be around. So that was great, because I thought, wow, we might just have a prima donna here, like from, but he certainly was not that. And then the young lady playing our daughter is played by Ava Grace. She's American, and she, in and of her own right, although is an actor, is also an artist, a musician, and she's very talented too. And the combo, Inigo is very sort of chill and relaxed, and she's very sort of mischievous and like loves a laugh. So she and I got up to a lot of like sort of tomfoolery on the set, and we're trying to make each other laugh all the time, and sort of trying to crack each other up in front of camera. And I must say, like for a younger actor, she knows how to do it pretty well. You got to keep your eye on her. She's tricky and wonderful.
What do you think it is about Monarch that's going to make it such a fast, intriguingly must-watch series?
Well, that's a great question. I think probably there's a dearth of stories about maybe country music out there. I don't think I can't remember one for in my memory for as far back as I can think that there's been I know we've had the Nashvilles and we've had the Empires, but and of course Nashville was yes, but this is sort of proper country, and it strikes me as a little bit like maybe Dallas or Dynasty, like when I was much younger, it has sort of flavors of that in it. And there's a lot of characters, and some are larger than life, but characters that I hope people are going to sort of really enjoy, like coming back to and watching again and again. The stories are going to develop. I think there's going to be sort of a lot of the pace is going to get quicker. There was a lot of setup, obviously, as there always is in a pilot. But we're in for a lot of incredible music, incredible sort of family drama, and lots of twists and turns that I hope people enjoy.
You've been a part of a number of incredible projects yourself over the years. Rain, Preacher, and Monarch, NCIS, all different types of things have been. Has there been a favorite project you've worked on or one that still remains a personal favorite of yours?
Yeah, well, I got to say, every single job that I've done, I've been very lucky to do, a diverse sort of spectrum of things, which has been so nice. And it is luck, and it's sort of time and place, and but all of them have their merits and their challenges. But a couple of standouts. One was in the UK, we have an author called Agatha Christie, and some
Yes.
Americans, yeah. And one of her characters is, and it's probably come into the American consciousness much more now, Hercule Poirot. So like Death on the Nile, they're now redoing the films, the Murder on the
Yes,
Orient
yes,
Express,
that's
Kenneth
good.
Branagh. But before Kenneth, they did films for TV in the UK, Hercule Poirot films for TV. And I was in one called The Cat Among the Pigeons. And I really loved that. It was just the attention to detail was extraordinary. It's set in the 1920s, obviously, as they all are. And the attention to detail, you felt as you walked onto set that you were stepping into the 1920s. Everything, the hairstyles, the makeup, to the ashtrays, to the just everything, the cars, the homes. It was a real treat, and it does so much of the work for you, like when you can step into an environment like that. So that was magnificent. And also David Suchet is the consummate Royal Shakespearean actor, and he gave us really a masterclass in acting. He was just a phenomenal actor to watch, and it just felt like it was a bit of a privilege being in that with him. So that was one. For other reasons, Preacher was a lot of fun. This is completely the other end of the spectrum. That's comic book, graphic novel that got turned into the show, and it's great. It was the producers of Now the Boys were creating Preacher, uh,
Right.
yeah, which is amazing. And it came from a Garth Ennis graphic novel, and some of the producers were names that we'd recognize, who do some pretty interesting stuff. So that was great. I played a 300-year-old vampire called Icarius who lived in New Orleans, and
Yes.
he was rather a ham to begin with. He had the sort of the long sort of 18th century hair and the velvet smock coats and all the rest, and you sort of think that he's sort of to be underestimated, but it turns out that he was something much darker, and so that arc was great to play. Uh, Plus the fact that I got to do all these flying scenes around New Orleans. I mean, transformations, body sort of transformations, and just incredible fights. I could move at superhuman speed, and becoming cats and rats, and I mean, it was the perfect sort of job for an actor. It was just everything. And I remember one night, like we had been working pretty hard we're in the French Quarter, and we were in some sort of sealed off building somewhere, and it was maybe a Friday, Saturday night, and the quarter was heaving. It was heaving. And it must have been about maybe 11:30 at night. And I just stepped outside to get a bit of fresh air. And I was sort of in the shadows, sort of leaning against a wall, like just dressed as a full on sort of Anne Rice vampire. And this sweet sort of American family, I presumably from the Midwest, sort of came by like a row of ducks, you know. And the father sort of glanced into the shadows in his, you know, in a fatherly way, and he almost jumped out of his skin when he saw me.
I was gonna say, grabbed
It
those
was
ducklings real fast and got out of there.
exactly. So it was, yeah, it was great. As Seth Rogen, you know, he was one of the producers on it. So
Okay.
there's that sort of dark sense of humor and sensibility about it. So yeah, I've been very lucky to have a variety of experiences across my career, and but there's several highlights, and I've enjoyed it all.
I mentioned earlier you're a performer. Are there any future plans to go on Broadway or do some theater to stretch your vocal range a little bit too?
That's very nice. It's funny that you mentioned that. I'm currently in Atlanta again on another job, and it's a big film job, and the lead up to this was that I was at San Diego for Comic Con. I was doing something over there, and I was in my hotel room, and I had the weirdest telephone call. A director friend of mine who I've known since the beginning of my career in the UK. He was kind enough to give me my first job in the theater, which was Anthony and Cleopatra.
Oh,
And it
goodness.
was, yeah, at the National Theatre, and it was Alan Rickman playing Anthony, and it was Helen Mirren playing Cleopatra. So it couldn't have been a better start.
Insanity.
Yeah, it was just the dream sort of job. And I was like, so cut to many years later, just at the last San Diego Comic Con, I'm sitting in my hotel room, and suddenly his name's Sean Matthias. He started to text and he said, "Hey, what are you doing at the moment?" And I said, "Well, I'm currently at Comic Con." And he said, "Because I would like you to be in my latest play, Dial M for Murder, Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder, as the lead role." And I was like, "This is superb," because since I've been in the United States, I haven't done any theater. I've been just doing TV and film. And I did a lot
And
of theatre
voice. A
and
lot of
voice. Yeah,
voice
and
too,
a
yeah.
lot of voice stuff. Yeah, you might have noticed. Yeah. So I was like, yes, this sounds great. And he said to me, "There's one catch." And this is Saturday, by the way. He says, "There's one catch." I said, "What?" He goes, "I'll need you here by Monday." So, and I was like, "Sean, like, obviously someone had dropped out and they needed somebody to come in and help out." And I was like, it's Hitchcock and it's the lead and it's his new season at the Windsor Theatre. I like it's such a wonderful offer. And I had this audition pending in the background for this job that I'm currently on. But just logistically, I was like, how do I get back from Comic Con, drive up to LA, then pack my life up, then get a plane ticket, and then fly out to be there for Monday? And I'm going to be so wrecked with that sort of. So anyway, it was offered, and I politely declined. I said, "Sean, under any other circumstances, you know, maybe, but it's just too short notice." So that would have been very nice, and it was just as well that I said no because I got this film job instead. So, but I do look forward to a good piece of theatre soon.
All right, I'll keep my fingers crossed and see if Sean will pick you up for the next project.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Well, we touched on what you're working on now. Have there been any other projects? We loved seeing you in Pam and Tommy as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that was enormous fun. I was on it just for one episode, but you know, talk about attention to detail. My God, the prosthetics, the hair and makeup on Lily James and Sebastian Stan, just fantastic, you know. And the set decoration to turn it into sort of the late 90s, as of the early 90s was also just wonderful. You know, I walked into set one day and it was the Playboy Mansion, and you're just like, this is phenomenal. And I got quite a start at one point because I was waiting sort of in a sort of a holding area for while you know for actors while you sort of hang around a bit. And suddenly this guy walked in, and my heart sort of missed a beat because, for all intents and purposes, it was Hugh Hefner walking into the room. And I knew that the guy was dead, but there he was in front of me. And I was just like, how is this possible? And the casting was so brilliant on him, you know. I was just like, mate, I couldn't believe. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Well, what would you like to say then to everyone else who are fans? Excuse me, I'll reword it. What would you like to say to everyone who are fans and supporters of the wonderful work you do, whether it's the incredible voice work you do on kids to video games to on our screens and hopefully again soon here in theater?
Well, I'd like to say first and foremost, thank you, because it really is a symbiotic relationship, and it's a loop, it's an energy loop, really, between entertainment and the observer of the entertainment, or the consumer or the enjoyer, and we all are consumers and enjoyers of entertainment. So to them, I just we wouldn't be here without them, and very much from my heart, it really is a privilege anytime any of them find something that in the work that I do that resonates with them. Especially there've been a few jobs, and some of them have been in the gaming world, in the computer game world, the video game world, where and the difference between film and video games is this: in film you get like an hour and a half to 2 hours to empathize with the character and to fall in love with them, hopefully, or hate them, or whatever your reaction is to them. When you play a video game, you can spend 40 hours with the principal character. And so the imprint is so much deeper, I've found, when I go to conventions, that the fans will tell me this. And so in some of the characters I've done, it has had a profound effect on people. And that's not just due to me at all. It's obviously due to the writers, and it's due to the designers, and it's due to the directors, and so on and so forth. But the collaborative effect on the audience member is sometimes profound. And if that's the case, then it's just an enormous privilege to be a part of the team that can do that for people. And there have been people who over COVID have sort of said, specifically with a certain video game character that I play, that character has helped them through one of the darkest times, that they've had. And I'm sure the same could be said for a lot of actors, a lot of different performances, and a lot of different mediums. But that really sort of struck home with me. I suddenly thought, although what we do is certainly not brain surgery or rocket science, it does have its part in society, and it does help people, and at the very least it alleviates some of the boredom or some of the fear that people can consistently feel in their lives, gives them a mental break from their troubles. And so that's reinvigorated a responsibility in me, that I hope that I at least sometimes do work that resonates with people and can help them through whatever it is they're going through. And if I do, it's a great privilege, and I'd like to thank people for the opportunity to do that.